In this story filled with romance and uncertainty, how will Liam and Eva's relationship evolve? Can they overcome past misunderstandings to embrace a future that is unknown but full of hope? Don't miss a single heartbeat. Subscribe now and join us on this romantic journey. 33. 'Cause it's you. Sunday came faster than I wanted it to. My inside has turned into a bundle of jittery nerves. Liam refused to divulge any details relating to the date. People around me know that I hate surprises. But of course the only person who doesn't seem to understand that one simple fact turned out to be my mate. The conversation at the mountain last evening went like this. I thought we were planning this together, I accused. No, he shook his head. That's not how it's done, says who. I asked, irritated, what if I don't like it, whatever it is that you're planning? That got him thinking. I was on the brink of winning when he shook his head again. I'll take the chance. He looked like he was reassuring himself. That's how it should have been the first time around. Let's not count that, okay? You're just so ancient, I told him. Yeah. I nodded. I strangely seemed to not like it, I thought out loud. He smiled a full smile. And you are Sue, he pretended to think real. Yeah. I played along. He nodded too, so much that it scares me. What does? I asked. The conversation suddenly is no longer playful. You, he said, not looking away. I know how to behave with everyone else. I know what they want from me, what they expect of me, and I give them that. With you, I don't know what you want me to be. I can be what you want only if you tell me. That's because I don't want you to be anything, I said. I want you to be you. I want to know you, not that I don't care mask of yours. Can you do that for me? I asked. Show me who you really are. He stared at me for a long time before slowly nodding. The real me loves giving surprises. My brows furrowed. What? The corner of his lips tugged upwards. Let me do this, his eyes eager. Our first date. This is the second one, actually, I said, taking his bait to lighten the atmosphere. Oh, please, he crinkled his nose. Don't call that a date. Our grandchildren wouldn't forgive me if I tell them that that's where our first date happened. I laughed. Yes, the horror in his face was real. It's funny. I would love to tell people how cute Liam looked when he made a face like that, but of course no one will believe me. Liam and cute. No. It's not. April, quit lying. Stop laughing, he complained. Okay, I tried to control my breathing. So you are not going to tell me anything? I asked for the last time. He nodded. Fine, I said. Don't complain if I shows up in a pair of sweats. He shrugged. Really? He doesn't care. I dropped Dan off at my parents'. My father has been dying to spend time with him, so I have the entire afternoon to myself. It's 2 in the evening. So I have 3 hours before I meet Liam, and of course 2 hours before I actually start getting ready. Why? Because I want to piss him off. All I'm going to do is wash my face and put on my sweats. That patriarch. Let him get a taste of his own medicine. Imagine the look on his face. The thought itself makes me want to dance. I'm all genius. Awesome. With that happy thought, I was about to jump on my bed to take a nap when the doorbell went off. Am I expecting someone? What's up? I held the door for Emma to enter. I don't have the time to do small talk, sweetheart. She pushed me slightly to open the door wide. I'm already running behind schedule. What schedule? Come through, she said to someone outside. In no time, 6 strangers walked through my door. They were carrying things and instruments that I both do and don't recognize. What's going on? I asked, confused. Set them up in her room, please. She smiled and pointed my room to them, and then turned to me. You have to be somewhere this evening, don't you? Yep, I nodded, but I don't remember telling you about it. Nor do I remember asking for your help. What's with all this? She laughed. It's not me, she said. I'm just following orders. Liam sent you? I asked, astonished. She nodded. God, that man. It's a date, not my wedding. But why is my heart beating so fast? I can't be that shallow, can I? No, I don't like surprises. I should stick to who I am. But why are there so many people? I asked. Oh, that. She pushed me towards the stairs. There were supposed to be only 3 of them initially: dress, hair, and makeup. That's all I booked until you scared him with your sweats last night. He bugged me all night with calls. The rest are just to assure him that you wouldn't be able to pull whatever mischief you have up your sleeves. You knew of the date? I asked as the hairdresser stared, rubbing chemicals one after another on my head to wash my hair. I also had an itchy mask on. Yep, she made herself comfortable on my bed, enjoying me being pushed and pulled around by 6 strangers. Oh, that's why he was so sure of not ruining the date even without telling me. When? I asked. He came to me about a month ago, she laughed. God. I had never seen the alpha so flushed before. About a month. That would be somewhere around our first date. Don't tell me he has been planning this since then. You have known this for a month and you didn't even give me a hint. I accused. Come on, she grinned, of all the people. You should know how good I'm at keeping secrets. I think that I'll soon be known as Emma the Keeper of Secrets, she said proudly. Her love for Hagrid is as deep as my love for Ron. I rolled my eyes and earned a glare from the makeup man. So tell me about his plans, I said. Nope, she shook her head. I pouted. That's not going to work on me, love. I'm not Evan, she laughed. When did you become best friends with him? I mocked her. She shrugged. I guess we have the same temperament. They do. They really do. Just like Liam was trained as the eldest child of the Alpha, Emma was raised in perfect isolation as the Beta's only daughter. It was only when we were put in the same group for training that we got close. I'm just not used to this, okay? It's just a date and he's making it a big deal out of it. That's because it's a big deal for him, Eva, she said. It may be a simple rational decision for you to say yes to his date, but it's not the same for him. Hell, he probably thinks it's a miracle every time you talk to him. That you are near him, that you are giving him a chance. He never even dreamt of that, she chuckled. You are so clueless, aren't you? You don't realize how important you are to him. Have you seen how he looks at you? It's like you're his son. It wasn't a rational decision for me either, Emma. It was on an impulse. It's like I want to give him everything that he desires. I am afraid too of my emotions for him. I have never been so out of control. I keep on telling myself that it's just the bond, that I should go slow. I want to separate myself from my wolf, but I am finding it harder and harder to do that. It's like we want the same thing that shouldn't have happened. My plan was to run away from him forever, not to run into his arms. You are not ready for this, are you? She asked sympathetically. I think this is as ready as I'll ever be. There's no point in pushing away the inevitable. I'll have to do this. I took a deep breath in determination. The dress was beautiful. It's a knee-length sea green dress, my favorite color. It must have been Emma's choice. Although half of my wardrobe is swarming with different shades of green, I still appreciate another addition to it. That reminds me of the shirts and the blue dress lying in a corner of my closet. I don't think I'm going to return the dress anymore, but the shirts are a different story altogether. Like, why am I collecting them? Do I want to auction them for money? Why can't I remember to return them to him? The number has risen to 7. How long am I going to keep stealing his shirts? When am I going to put my own clothes in the damn mountain? I have to do something about this particular situation after the date. It's here, Emma said, looking at her phone. What is? I asked, glancing at my feet in nervousness. The darn silver pumps were beautiful, all right, but I think I'll fall off it before anyone can appreciate their beauty. The car, of course. She walked over to me and pulled my chin up. You look beautiful. Don't be nervous. Now go, he's waiting. She pushed me towards the door. Showtime. A shiny red car was awaiting me, all right, but there was no Liam in it. I turned to Emma with a confused look. You said he was waiting. She smiled. Waiting as in waiting at the venue. The driver held the door open for me. I smiled nervously at him before getting in the car. There was a huge bouquet of blood-red roses awaiting me. Picked it up. I should probably count the flowers to keep my nerves at bay. All the best. I could hear Emma's excited voice as the car took off. Where is he taking me? I would have shouted kidnap, had I not been good at geography. The only thing keeping me sane 40 minutes into the journey is the fact that we are still in our territory, albeit the territory that half of the population never heard of. Is this why I was shoved into this huge fur coat? We are at the northwest side of our territory. I have only heard of it from Luna when I was little, never actually been here. It has mountains, springs and small lakes that remain fully snow-covered 9 out of the 12 months in a year. The other 3 months, like now, the snow partially melts, giving way to light vegetation, but it's still not habitable. The car came to a halt. The driver opened the door for me. I stepped out into the snow. Before I had the time to look around, the man bowed hurriedly and took off with the car in the direction we came from. Wasn't he supposed to stay and take us back or something? It was ethereal. That's what it was, the view ahead of me. A couple of steps away from me, the snow ceased to give way to a lake with blue water and floating ice. And in the center of its vast expanses was a beautiful wood house. It was huge. How was that thing even there? Trees covered with white flowers were surrounding the house. I can bet all of my fortune on the fact they were fake. Trees can't simple grow out of nowhere. The snow-clad mountains overlooked the entire valley. The sun was glowing orange in its path to the end of the horizon. It was a dream, and in the middle of that dream was my date. He was standing on a boat tied to the shore, looking at me intently with his haunting green eyes, a bouquet of white in his hand. I could hear the movement of the blood that my heart was pumping. It was probably because the valley was silent, as if frozen in time. He extended his hand for me. I started walking towards him, still in trance of the enchanted land. Hi, he breathed nervously as I stopped next to him. He was dressed in a charcoal black suit with a white shirt complementing it. His otherwise unruly short hair was swept back. That automatically made me smile, the fact that he even put an effort on himself for today. Hi, I replied. It feels so weird to be in this unfamiliar setting with him, away from the world we know. Did you have a comfortable journey? He asked softly. I could not answer him because my eyes were stuck on the flowers in his hand. These are. I pointed at the flowers. He smiled. For you. He forwarded the bouquet. Here, I'll hold those for you, he said, taking the roses from me. I took the beautiful white and green bundle in my hand. I could feel tears pricking the back of my eyes. I didn't want to fall weak in front of him today, but I was, and that too not even a minute after I met him. I ran my hand over them. Where did you find these? I asked, not taking my eyes off the flowers. Do you like them? He asked, stepping on the boat and holding his hand out for me to take. I placed my hand in his. A shiver ran down my body. No, I said, sitting opposite to him. I love them. He smiled indulgently as he started rowing the boat towards the house. Where did you meet them? White spider lilies. I smiled at the flowers in my hand. My maternal grandma used to grow them. She was in love with the green in the tropics. So despite this being a tropical plant, she grew them in her backyard with special care. I fell in love with the flowers the moment I saw them. They looked so pure, so fresh, like the morning dew. I sighed, finally taking my eyes off the flowers to look at him. It's been over a decade since I saw them last. They went away with my grandma. No other flower ever caught my attention after it. I never thought I would see them again. Thank you, I said. You really have a unique taste. They are beautiful, he complimented. I smiled wide and looked down at the flowers. He shouldn't have given me these flowers if he wanted my attention on him. We are here, he said. The boat stopped next to a couple of stairs. The stairs were half submerged. It led to the front porch of the house that was a few feet above the water. I stepped out on the stairs and waited for Liam to do the same. Leaning on the wooden railing around the porch, I took in the vast water surrounding us. Dusk was setting in to give us a peek of the moon. Wow, I was awestruck. How does this place even exist? It's like I am looking at my desktop's wallpaper. Liam chuckled next to me. Yes, it's beautiful. Isn't it? I turned to him, excited. But he was already looking at me. His eyes laced with the familiar desire that I've started to see so very often these days. Still feels so new to me. You look beautiful, he said, not hesitating even when I caught him staring at me. I could feel my cheeks heating up. Thank you, I managed to say before turning back to the horizon. We should go inside, he said. It's freezing out here, I agreed reluctantly. The inside brought another shock to me. I was expecting it to be a small resort of some sort, but there was no one inside. It was like a warm, comfortable, deserted home. Not a resort. The ground floor was one room in entirety. I could see the kitchen in the east, dining table a little away from the kitchen. The west side was filled with comfortable couches and decorated like a living room. 2 staircases lead to the first floor from either side. What's wrong? Liam asked when he saw that I was still rooted to the door. There's no one inside, I said. He smirked. Why? He walked towards me. You think I'll take advantage of you? What? No, I said, embarrassed. That's not what I meant. I thought this was a restaurant of some sort. You know, in an exotic location. He came to a stop as he reached me, uncomfortably close. His lips brushed my cheek before moving to my ear. So you are okay with me taking advantage of you then? He whispered. What? Warehouse are you doing? I shuddered. Closing the door, he replied, moving back. It's cold outside. Can I have your coat? It was only after he moved back that I realized I was holding my breath. I nodded wordlessly and gave him my coat. He walked away leisurely and placed both mine and his coat on the coat stand. Should we start with the dinner, he said, waiting for me to join him. Finish it before it turns cold. I nodded, walking towards me. He gave me his hand and I took it for the second time this evening. He walked me to the space behind the kitchen that I couldn't see from the door, and my breath stuck for the nth time today. There was a table for two set at a corner of the space next to a huge French window. The lake, the dark mountain and the now prominent moon were peeking into the house through the glass. A round source of light was hanging above the table, spreading a soothing light to the otherwise dark corner. Liam pulled a chair for me. I sat down after thanking him. He moved to the opposite chair. What is this place? I finally voiced my curiosity. He smiled as he withdrew the lids of the dishes. Are you kidding me? Those were my favorites, all of them. Okay. I'm sold. My grandfather built it for my grandmother, he said. Ah, how romantic, I grinned. So you guys actually own this magical place? My eyes widened, as I gave the entire place another sweeping glance. No, we don't own it, he replied, pushing my plate towards me. Here, thank you. I smiled at him. Try it, he said eagerly, his eyes wide in anticipation. My eyes narrowed at that. Did you? I hesitated. Did you by any chance make all of these food? I asked skeptically. I could see light hues of red on his face as he coughed to distract my attention. No ways, this man is all set to kill me. You can cook, I said, astonished. Since when? A long time, he said. You didn't know that? His voice had a hint of sadness in it. Why on earth did I never notice that? There's no way I never saw him cook. I probably shrugged it off as another of his perfect qualities. After all, I and Evan spent all of our childhood cursing him for his perfectness. He made our flaws more noticeable. You don't like it? He asked after my silence. Are you kidding me? How can I not like the fact that you can cook? I lost my head in excitement. Kitchen romance has always been my fantasy. ISW. My eyes rounded. I slammed my palm against my mouth. The surprise in his face slowly gave way to a prominent smirk. He opened his mouth to say something, but I held my palm up. Don't, I pleaded. Please don't say whatever you're planning to say. This is embarrassing enough. He nodded, but the smile never left his face, so I ducked my head down and concentrated on the food, gulping it down as fast as I could. The fact that it was delicious beyond the world helped the cause. Wine. He offered. You'll choke on your food at this rate, his voice laced with concern. No, I don't want even a drop of alcohol in my system tonight, even though this much alcohol won't even make a difference to the working of my system. But no thank you, I won't take the risk. Coffee? He asked at the end of the dinner. Yes, please, I nodded instantly and then gave him a sheepish smile. Let's go, he said, getting up from his chair. What about these? I asked, looking at the table. There will be someone here tomorrow, he said. I nodded and followed him into the kitchen. So who owns this awesome place if not your family? I asked, sitting on a high chair kept next to the kitchen counter as I watched Liam move around looking for ingredients. You do, he said, finally settling next to the coffee maker on the counter. Okay, I nodded, picking up the coffee cups to look at the words on them. I paused midway and looked up at him. He did too. What? I asked, confused. He placed his elbows on the counter and leaned towards me. I said, this place belongs to you. His gaze was so tender that it was getting hard for me to look away from his eyes and process his words. Why would this place belong to me? I said, still not looking away from his eyes. He smiled and pulled a chair to sit on the other side of the counter. Eva, I brought you here to give you my grandfather's gift for you. He knew that he wouldn't live to see you, so on my 16th birthday, he left it in my care so that I can give it to you when I meet you. He looked away and I knew what was coming when I decided to mark Maya. I also decided to give this to Emma. I thought, if not my mate, my grandfather will be equally happy to give it to Evan's mate. He sighed, but then you came when I least expected you to, and you left in such a hurry that I didn't have the time to process it all. He took my hands in his. I'm sorry I'm giving it to you this late. Liam, I exhaled. It's burdensome, I told him. He furrowed his brows together. It's burdensome, I repeated. I am not a part of your family. I'm not officially with you. I'm sorry I can't accept this gift of yours. It's too much, and even you know that, I told him calmly. It's not my gift, he said. I haven't given you my gift yet. It's yours. Whether you are with me or not has nothing to do with his gift. I have no right over it. I was just the guardian of this place. Moreover, I already wrote it over to you. Took months of paperwork. Can't bother going through that all over again. What? When? Are you effing kidding me? I don't remember. Years ago, he said. I only brought you here to give you a tour to this place. I'm happy that you like it here. I opened and closed my mouth like a fish, trying to cohere a sentence, but finally gave up. Whatever. We can deal with it later. I don't want to ruin the date, I said. If this was a date to begin with and not a property tour, I glared at him. To his credit, he looked guilty. Of course it's a date. He smiled sheepishly and handed me a coffee cup and took the other himself. We took the coffee and moved towards the couch. The couch too was situated near a French window. I put the cup down and walked over to the window. I put my hand against it and let my palm seep in the coolness of the glass. It's like watching a movie in real life, I said, looking at the sparkling darkness ahead. A large warm hand soon covered mine over the glass. He was standing behind me, his body almost touching me. My breath hitched. I felt his other hand slowly push the hair on my back over my right shoulder. He then let the hand land softly on my waist. He then placed his chin on my now bare shoulder and exhaled. My entire body jolted up, giving way to goosebumps. May 26, 0602 p.m. He breathed. He was so close that I could even hear the slight quiver in his otherwise confident voice the moment I realized that I was hopelessly in love with you. I turned around so fast that Liam almost lost his balance. I held his shoulder to steady him. His hands instinctively wrapped around my waist. My back was thankfully supported by the window. I looked at him with wide eyes. May 26. Days before Dan's birthday. Wow, he smiled. I didn't know it was that much of a news. I thought it was pretty obvious. Warehouse at. I fumbled. One of his hands rose to cup the base of my face. I love you, Eva Taylor, he whispered. My heart skipped a beat as I kept looking at him smiling down at me. Wasn't this the moment I dreaded a few months ago? Yet why is every cell of my body reacting this way to his words? There's not an ounce of repulsion, only a fire warming its way up my body. He loves me. The realization itself makes my knees wobble. I held onto his shoulder tightly, afraid of falling down. I couldn't bear the intensity in his eyes as moments ticked by, but I was so captivated that I couldn't turn away. Warehouse, why are you? I racked my brain for words. Now I finished stupidly. Because you told me that I have to voice out my feelings. You said you wouldn't know otherwise. So I wanted to let you know, he said, rubbing the back of his index finger softly on my neck. You don't have to say anything right now. He pulled me away from the window and made me sit on the couch. Sit here. Let me put the mugs away. And just like that he was gone, giving me the much-needed privacy to deal with his confession. By the time he was back, I was stable enough to speak without fumbling. You're all right? He asked, sitting next to me. Yes, I nodded. You almost gave me a heart attack there, I said. He laughed. Won't want that to happen. Your heart is precious. When I went silent, he asked softly, you have questions? Yes, I do, and I don't know how he figured that out. The problem is that my question is really stupid, but since I'm not in the state to think anything sensible, this is all I could come up with. How did you count the minute? It took him a moment to even understand my question. He was expecting something more mature out of me. God. I'm sorry, I blushed. It's a stupid question. No, it's not. He grinned. The coffee shop at the mall had a huge clock in my line of vision, he answered. The coffee shop in the mall. Is that why he kissed me? Because he realized that he was in love with me. I nodded, my face heating up. I was tongue-tied. The atmosphere suddenly turned awkward. Liam. I felt like I should say something, but I just had nothing to say. It's okay, he said. I know you're not there yet. I'll wait until you come to me. He took my hand in his. I just wanted you to know how important you are to me. I wanted you to know that I never thought of you as anyone's replacement. You are you. And that's why I fell in love with you. I sometimes try to think of the beginning of my attraction to you but never come up with a definite answer. I gave up after the first few times. I concluded that it was always there, in whichever form, in whatever situation the time demanded. You always meant something to me. When you were born, I wanted a baby like you. When you were my brother's playmate, I wanted a friend like you. When I was a day away from my 16th birthday, I wanted a mate like you. I realized that I have always wanted you. There was never a beginning, he finished. I know I have said this 1,000 times today, but my head is once again not working. I look at the man in front of me and it's taking me every ounce of my self-control to not kiss him right here. Why have I always been so blind? Why did he never try to include himself into my little world? Why wasn't I born a few years early? Why were we always at the wrong place in the wrong time? I have so many complaints from my life at this moment. I didn't realize how long I was staring at him, but I was shaken out of my self-pity when he started speaking again. I know it's not the most appropriate time, but I still haven't given you my gift, he said nervously. I thought this was your gift, I wondered out loud. I'm flattered that my confession felt like a gift to you. He smiled, but no, my gift is a little more demanding than my confession. I quirked a brow and he brought out a little velvet box from his pocket. I opened it and my eyes widened in shock. Don't worry, it's not what you think it is, he said quickly. It's a ring, I said stupidly. Yes, but it's a couple's ring. He raised his hand to show me a similar platinum band in his finger. Wear it when you're ready, he said. I'll wait. As long as it takes, I'll be there. Even if the day never comes, I'll still be there by your side. Because the alphabets have been frustrating me so much today, I decided to do the only thing I could do without using words. Kissed him. 5 months later, it's been a year already. Luna asked. Yes, I smiled. Feeding Dan a year back home. We should have a party to celebrate it, Evan jumped in. Let's do that, Emma agreed. No, please, I pleaded. I have had enough parties in the last 1 year to last a lifetime. Moreover, it hasn't even been a month since you had Ethan. Emma, I told her, how can you even think of putting yourself under stress? That's true, Alpha. Blake spoke up for the first time, but we also need to commemorate this day. You brought happiness to our house. He folded the newspaper he was reading. How about a gift from each one of us? Whatever you want. Really, Dad, Evan mocked his father. You never gifted me a single thread, and you are ready to give her whatever she wants. The senior Alpha sighed. That's because you never gave me any happiness, my son, he said dramatically. What about Ethan? Evan challenged. My little grandchild, the Alpha pretended to think. He suddenly looked up at Emma. Tell me what you want, my child, he told her. Me and Luna burst out laughing at Evan's pouting face. You'll all receive gifts, Luna said, but it's Eva's turn today. She looked at me. You won't get another chance like this. You should grab this opportunity. She winked at me. I smiled at her. All right then. I took a deep breath. Preparing myself for the change in environment, I want you to forgive Liam, I told the senior Alpha. There was a pin-drop silence at the table after that. I don't think that has anything to do with you or your gift, he said. At least let him come back home, I pleaded. He has suffered enough. He needs his family. I tried again. I could feel that Luna would break into tears any moment now. Evan was silently looking at his father, making it clear that he had no objection to it. It made me want to sigh in relief. Evan's yes means a lot to me. Emma nodded in encouragement. He didn't make a mistake that I can easily forgive, child, the Alpha said. He committed an irreversible sin. We are dating. The words smoothly sailed out of my mouth before I could stop them. Both Alpha and Luna looked at me, shocked. I didn't keep Evan in the dark this time, so he knew. What? Luna asked, not believing her ears. We are seeing each other. Me and Liam a gift. Liam asked as he chopped the onions. Yes, everyone's giving me gifts for the 1-year anniversary, I said, putting the spaghetti in the boiling water. I need one from you too. I turned to look at him. He stopped chopping and turned to me with watery eyes. Have you thought of any particular gift? He asked. I took his hand and entwined it with mine and then raised it for him to see. It took him a while, but soon his eyes widened in surprise. The 2 platinum bands were seated next to each other. You, I replied. 34. Thank you for loving me. Liam, you, she said softly. I stood rooted there, unable to move. Are you saying what I think you are saying? I asked after I recovered. She nodded while tiptoeing to wrap her arms around my neck. My hands automatically wrapped around her waist as I supported my back to the counter. Liam, what she said with a glint in her eyes. I can't pinpoint on the second, the minute, the hour or the day, but I know for sure that I have fallen irrevocably in love with you a little every day over the past year. She pecked my lips. I love you. I froze. Say something, she said, worried. You don't mean it, I heard myself say. Why? She asked. A lot of thoughts jumbled in my head all at once. I couldn't process any of them. How could you forgive me for not waiting for you? I asked. That's something that I have avoided talking about like a plague. Who said I forgave you for not waiting for me? She replied. I looked at her confused. Why did you never ask for my forgiveness, Liam? She leaned into me. I remained silent, tightening my hold on her waist. Why? She insisted. Because it's unforgivable. I looked away. It's not something you should ever forgive me for. I have no right to ask you to do that for me. There, she said. You said it. She pulled away and turned to switch off the boiling spaghetti. A part of me will always remember the fact that you didn't wait for me. She leaned against the counter. A part of me will never be able to forgive you for that. But that part of me is as small as 1/100th of me. The other 99, she laughed at her own analogy. The rest of me. Why should the rest of me which yearns for you suffer for that little bit of me? She took my hand in hers. So let's just forget that little bit of us and move on. Okay. I pulled her into me and wrapped my hands around her waist once again. I just don't see what I did to have your love. I don't deserve it. If you didn't deserve it, I wouldn't have offered it to you no matter how much that would have hurt me. I fell in love with you because you are you. You are kind, patient, and righteous. You value your relationships. You know how to love. And above all, she grinned, you're hot. That made the corner of my lips to tuck up. I don't know about the rest, but I definitely stand with you on the last one, I said. She slapped me playfully, but then her smile vanished. I want us to have a normal relationship, Liam, she said. And that wouldn't be possible if you don't leave your guilt behind. From this day on, I don't want to hear you or anyone else say that you don't deserve me or our love. You deserve all the love in the world. You have suffered enough. Stop punishing yourself. Every time I look at her, I fall in love with her all over again. That's how beautiful my mate is. I know I have to say this now or I wouldn't ever be able to do this. Thank you, I said. For what? She asked. For everything, I replied. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for coming back to me. Thank you for giving me Dan. Thank you for being my mate, I breathed. Thank you for being born. She smiled. I would have been a mess without you, I finished. She placed her palm softly on my cheek. I feel so beautiful when I see myself in your eyes, she smiled. Thank you. She wouldn't believe how lucky I feel every time she smiles at me. I smiled back and leaned to capture her soft lips into mine. Eva. Okay, I fanned my face with my hand. Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous, I kept chanting. Eva, calm down, sweetheart, my mother said, patting my cheeks. They would ask for your blood. Sarah giggled from the corner and earned my glare. I have never done this before, Mom, I whined. Everyone does it for the first time, only Eva Emma said you can't get marked twice. Yeah, real helpful, I sighed. I don't know, okay. There will be so many of them watching me. Feels weird, you're the alpha's mate. The people need to be present in the celebration, my mother explained. I just want to get over with this night, I cried. Ow, ow, Ruby whistled. Someone's eager to visit her new room. If it's away from the crowd, I gave Ruby a pointed glare. Yes. It's time. Evan poked his head into the room. You look beautiful, Chipmunk. He winked at me before vanishing. Let's go, Emma said. My mother kissed me on my forehead. I trust your trust, baby. You are beautiful, I smiled, holding back my tears. I love you, Mom. I love you too. Now go. Be strong. I took a deep breath and followed Emma. I met my dad outside, standing with Zach and Nick. Zach was holding a box of tissue up for Dad. Dad, come on. I shook my head in amazement. How do you manage to squeeze buckets of water out of those eyes? Shut up, he said, wiping his nose. You know no one's dying today, don't you? I just had to make sure. You never know what my dad's brain cooks. I'm just getting married the traditional way. That's it. Back to real life tomorrow. I hugged him. Liam held his hand for me. I took it as I climbed the podium. You look stunning, he whispered, only for me to hear. A blush climbed my face. Thank you, I said. You don't look bad yourself. He smiled. You have nothing to be nervous about. If you can't process anything, just follow my lead and you'll be mine. At the end of all these chaos, my eyes rose to meet his, and I was floored by the amount of eagerness and love in them. That's all it took for my nerves to calm down. The full moon was shining bright when we both shifted. I wasn't looking at the crowd. I was only looking at my mate's eyes. I didn't hear what they were saying. I just followed his lead. My wolf's happiness was mirrored in his. They both looked at each other before turning their heads to position their face to each other's neck. And then it happened. They both sunk their teeth into the other's body at the same time. The crowd erupted in joy. A jolt like nothing before ran through me. For the first few moments I felt drugged, and then the other emotions sipped in. I looked at Liam and his eyes reflected the feeling that mine held. The feeling of being complete. Epilogue. 5 years later. Why does Dan get to go then? Ethan argued back. Because he's a big boy and he can take care of himself, his mother explained. Exhausted now, let me concentrate on Henry, and you finish that darn food before I shove it down your throat. Language. Eva chided her friend while concentration on feeding the 3-year-old grumpy pup in her lap. How come Luke's going then? Ethan countered. Unlike his father, he always finds the perfect logical way to win an argument. He ain't no big boy. He shook his head dramatically. That's because Luke's too little to go a day without his mother. And also because me and your grandmother are in no position to deal with the 4 of you at once. Stop arguing with your mother, Ethan. His mother glared at him while his aunt laughed away. Ground him, Mommy, Henry yelled, excited. Stop acting like a baby, Eric said in his no-nonsense tone. The 2 3-year-olds spoke out together, and then proceeded to look at each other from their respective mother's lap. Eric, Henry. Eva raised her voice. You don't say that to your elder brother. Am I making myself clear? Henry nodded and turned back to his food with a little pout. I'm sorry, Mother, Eric said solemnly. Eric, stop copying your dad. Eva pulled his cheek. Start acting your age, will ya? Ethan, baby. Eva turned to the distressed boy. We will send you a lot of baby pictures, okay? We'll be back in a day. Is it really important for me to sit next to Luke, Dad? Dan made a face at the sleeping bundle next to him. Why can't I sit with you and Mom can take the back seat and be with her favorite kid? You are going to do the explaining thing because I'm tired, Eva told her husband before shutting her eyes. Liam sighed. Daniel, you need to start getting along with Lucian. He is your own brother. And your mother loves all of you equally. You know she does. No, she doesn't. Dan complained. She doesn't have the time to love me anymore. When I go to lay, I'm never coming back again. He loves me more than either of you. He folded his arms to his chest and looked out of the window. You want to live with the vampires? A smirk crossed his father's face. He felt like he finally had the upper hand. A moment passed before Daniel bit back with sarcasm. Well, at least they love me. Finally, Liam took a deep breath. We know you're angry at us, and rightly so. We don't spend enough time with you. I and your mother will find a solution to that once we return. But you can't take your anger out on your brother. You love Eric so much. Why can't you love Lucian the same? He tried to reason. Because he's ugly, Daniel replied. You are being rude to your brother, Dan. Eva raised her voice. She hated whatever phase her eldest son was going through. She understood him, but there was very little she could do to help him. The days when he had his mother's sole attention were gone, but Daniel was so attached to his mother that he didn't take the change well. He's 4 months old, Mom. Dan said he wouldn't mind me being rude to him. Behave. Eva turned to her husband while walking through the gallery of the hidden wing of the hospital. Tell him how happy you are for him, she told him in a harsh whisper, hoping to get her point across without it reaching the children's ear. How can I be happy for him when he has what I've been craving for? He whispered back. Stop whining. She rolled her eyes. That's not something I can change. It's your Fu King chromosome. Maybe that's what the goddess wants. We can always try again, he suggested. No, we can't, she glared at him. It's not there in your blood. You should have realized it by now. You have 5 boys in your house, but... No buts. When you behave like this, I feel so bad for Luke, Eva said. What does that have to do with Luke? I love him. How does my wanting a know? End of discussion, she firmly replied. We are going to give it one last try, he then added a please for extra effect. Are you excited? Eva asked Dan, her hand firmly holding the doorknob. Not really. But his answer didn't really change anything. His mother went ahead and opened the door to the white hospital room. Ray, Jean, Eva shouted happily as soon as they came into view. Congratulations. I'm so happy for you guys. She went ahead, took the woman in a bear hug. Be careful. She hasn't recovered yet, Ray immediately said. Eva glared at him. Your wife isn't made of glass. She wouldn't break if I touch her. Ray laughed and wrapped his arms around her. Thanks for coming. He then turned to Liam. Hey man. You should see her, Jean said, smiling from the bed. Oh yes. Eva walked towards the baby cot. Aw.
Liam, come here.
Look how pretty she is. Her husband walked over to her with Lucian in his arm. They both peeked at the little cot with matching curiosity. There's my favorite boy. Ray pulled Dan with him towards the center of everyone's attention. Look who's here to see you, Rihanna, Ray said, making space for Dan to look at the cot. Daniel wasn't expecting to see much. He has seen enough babies to last a lifetime of horror. He just didn't want to disappoint his lay, so he peeked over hesitantly. What he saw made his eyes go round in amazement. I want her. He looked up at his mother. Mommy, can we take her home? Before he could finish his sentence, his father had already clamped his palm tightly over his mouth. Don't you dare finish that sentence, son, his father warned. His eyes wide in panic while his wife burst out laughing. If you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to hit subscribe for more heartwarming moments.